Welcome to my personal archive. I am the Keeper. This isn't just a crime channel, it's a record of our fascinating inability to be normal. Here, we open doors that should have been locked forever and analyze the fingerprints that darkness leaves behind. If you seek comfort or easy answers, this isn't the place for you. But if you have the stomach for the naked truth, pull up a chair. I have the keys. In every stretching shadow, in every whisper of the nocturnal wind, lies the potential for the unknown, for the unthinkable. The human mind is a labyrinth, capable of the highest creations and the deepest darkness. Today, the Keeper explores the corners where normality unravels, where order is subverted by dark impulses, and the pursuit of justice becomes a journey through horror. Prepare yourself, for not every story has a happy ending, and not every truth is easy to face. Our first stop takes us to Willow Creek, a quaint town nestled between green hills and crystal-clear streams. One of those places where doors were rarely locked, and the hum of everyday life was broken only by birdsong. To outsiders, it was an oasis of tranquility, a refuge from the bustle of modern life. But, as the Keeper knows, even the most idyllic paradises can harbor the most disturbing secrets. Clara Hayes, in her early 30s, was the embodiment of Willow Creek's vitality. A talented artist, she ran a small ceramics gallery on the main street, her hands shaping clay into forms that spoke of beauty and simplicity. Her laughter lightly echoed in the afternoon breeze, and her eyes, an electric blue, reflected endless curiosity for life. Clara lived a peaceful existence, surrounded by friends and a loving family, completely oblivious to the darkness beginning to weave itself around her. The entry of that darkness came in the form of Arthur Finch. Arthur, a man in his early 40s, was almost invisible in Willow Creek. A remote-working IT technician, he blended into the town's backdrop with his hunched posture and evasive gaze. No one particularly noticed him, except perhaps for his reclusiveness. He frequented the same cafes as Clara, passed by her gallery, but never seemed to interact. Yet there was something in his eyes, a veiled intensity that many chose to ignore or simply didn't notice. Arthur's obsession with Clara began almost imperceptibly, small, anonymous gestures, a flower left at her door, an unsigned note. At first, Clara dismissed these as the quirks of a secret admirer, perhaps a little odd, but harmless. However, the frequency and nature of the gifts changed. The flowers turned into personal objects she had carelessly left behind. The notes, once romantic, now contained intimate details about her routine, her phone conversations. The sensation of being watched began to eat away at her. Clara's world began to shrink. The windows of her gallery, once open to the sunlight, now remained closed. Her home, once a sanctuary, became a prison where every creak of wood and every moonlit shadow made her jump. She reported the situation to the local police, but with no concrete evidence of physical threat, the authorities were limited. "Stalking is hard to prove, Miss Hayes," they told her, a phrase that became the echo of her despair. Arthur Finch's face began to appear in the most unexpected places, watching her from a car parked miles from her home, or suddenly standing in a supermarket line with a minimal, disturbing smile. The escalation of intrusion was methodical and cruel. Clara's phone rang every hour, day and night, silent calls that lasted until she hung up, only to resume minutes later. Her carefully private social media began to show signs of breach. Disturbing messages, filled with sick possessiveness, appeared from anonymous accounts that were quickly deleted. Clara's terror was palpable. Her sleep became a distant memory. The Willow Creek community mostly responded with disbelief and discomfort. "Arthur? No, he's harmless," some said. Others whispered about Clara's paranoia, about how her once vibrant energy had been replaced by near-palpable anxiety. Isolated, the artist sought refuge in her art, but not even the clay in her hands could offer solace against the looming shadow. The fateful night arrived with a torrential downpour, washing the streets of Willow Creek. Clara, exhausted and on the verge of a nervous breakdown, had decided to spend the night in her gallery, feeling safer among her creations than in her seemingly vulnerable home. Around 2 a.m., the silence of the gallery was broken by a creak. It wasn't the familiar sound of wind, but that of a door being forced open. Clara's heart raced, a wild drumbeat against her ribs. Arthur Finch was there, standing in the gloom, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her recoil. He didn't say a word, simply advanced, his expression a terrifying blend of euphoria and cold determination. What followed was an act of extreme violence and sick possessiveness. Clara fought desperately, her screams muffled by the storm outside. The life of a vibrant soul was brutally extinguished, an act of senselessness that forever stained the innocence of Willow Creek. The police arrived hours later, alerted by a neighbor who, despite the rain, heard something disturbing. They found Clara Hayes, her life tragically cut short, and Arthur Finch still at the scene, sitting in silence as if in a trance. He offered no resistance. There was no remorse in his gaze, only a strange placidity. The investigation that followed revealed the extent of Arthur Finch's secret life. His apartment, meticulously tidy on the outside, hid a disturbing shrine to Clara. Photos of her, news clippings about her gallery, diaries detailing her every move, every conversation he'd intercepted. It was the portrait of a mind consumed by an obsession that had spilled into the darkest reality. Forensic experts peeled back layers of his psyche, revealing a history of isolation, rejection, and distorted fantasies that had become his only truth. What Willow Creek saw as a reclusive IT technician was, in fact, a lurking predator, spinning an invisible web of control and terror. Arthur Finch's conviction brought a simulacrum of closure to the community, but the scars remained. Clara's gallery was shut down, her ceramics, symbols of a vibrant life, now covered in dust. Her laugh no longer echoed in the breeze, replaced by whispers of a tragedy no Willow Creek resident would ever forget. The town had learned, in the cruelest way, that darkness can bloom even under the brightest sun, and that human vulnerability is an invitation for those who dwell in shadows. But the case of Arthur Finch and Clara Hayes is just one of many examples of how darkness can manifest in unexpected forms. In our next story, we explore a mystery that defies logic, where evidence vanishes like smoke and the truth hides for decades. Prepare yourself for the story of Emily Peterson's disappearance, a puzzle as cold as the winter that last saw her. The human mind is a Pandora's box, and what's to come is further proof of that. Darkness, at times, does not reveal itself through a singular act of violence, but through absence, the vacuum of a life that simply vanished. Transitioning from the palpable tragedy of Willow Creek, we now turn our eyes to a different kind of horror. Persistent mystery, the agony of not knowing. Uncertainty can be a crueler prison than any cell, and the story of Emily Peterson is a poignant testament to that. It was the winter of 1998 in the Pacific Northwest, a season of heavy snowfalls and gray skies that seemed to embrace the landscape with a shroud of melancholy. Emily Peterson, a 21-year-old university student, was on her way home for the holidays. Eager to see her family and escape academic life, a vibrant young woman with a passion for literature and a promising future. Emily was known for her adventurous spirit and independence. She'd planned a brief stop to visit a friend in a nearby town before heading to her parents' home, a trip she had made countless times. On the night of December 12th, Emily called her parents to let them know she had left her friend's place and would be on the road for a few more hours. Her voice sounded cheerful and full of anticipation. It was the last time they would hear her voice. Hours passed, and the silence from Emily's phone became deafening. Dawn brought the harsh reality. Emily Peterson had disappeared. Her car, an old and reliable blue sedan, was found abandoned on Blackwood Road, a rarely used back road that cut through a dense forest, about 30 kilometers east of where she was supposed to arrive. The scene was eerily intact. The car sat on the shoulder, keys still in the ignition, driver's door unlocked. Emily's winter coat lay on the passenger seat, along with her backpack and some books. There were no signs of struggle, no traces of blood or altercation. It was as if Emily had simply pulled over, stepped out, and dissolved into the cold, damp air of the forest. The only visible trace was a set of fresh footprints in the thin snow leading into the dense woods, then abruptly stopping a few meters in. The initial investigation became a race against time and nature. Search and rescue teams, aided by scent dogs and local volunteers, scoured every square meter of forest around Blackwood Road. The thick snow and dense pine wood terrain made the task grueling. Hopes faded with each passing day without a sign of Emily. Police theorized she may have gotten lost in the woods, disoriented by the cold and dark. But the idea that a savvy university student, raised in the region and well aware of nature's dangers, simply got lost was hard to accept. Interviews with Emily's friends and family revealed nothing suspicious. She had no known enemies, no financial troubles, no history of depression or erratic behavior. Her then-boyfriend was thoroughly investigated and cleared. The possibility of abduction was equally problematic. There was no ransom demand, no evidence of another vehicle at the scene. Blackwood Road was notoriously isolated, hardly a spot a criminal would choose for a premeditated act. Weeks turned into months, and the snow melted to reveal a forest floor just as empty. Emily Peterson's mystery deepened, becoming local legend, a cautionary tale whispered around campfires. Investigators revisited the crime scene, looking for anything that may have been missed, but the forest kept its secrets with relentless stubbornness. No body, no weapon, no witnesses. Emily's case became one of the region's most frustrating cold cases. Emily's family lived in limbo, trapped between pain and hope. Every phone ring, every knock at the door brought a surge of adrenaline and dread. The lack of closure, the inability to hold a funeral, to say goodbye, is a torment few can grasp. Emily's mother, devastated, spent years trying to keep the case alive, handing out flyers, appearing in local media, never letting go of the hope her daughter might still be alive, or that the truth would at last emerge. Her father, in turn, withdrew into grim silence, his pain forming a shell of stoicism. In the years that followed, numerous theories surfaced, each more speculative than the last. Some suggested Emily had been the random victim of a predator who forced her from the car and took her into the forest, her body never found due to the terrain's vastness. Others had more mystical explanations, invoking local legends of wild creatures, or even supernatural events, fueled by the loneliness and unforgiving nature of the woods. None of these theories was ever backed by hard evidence. Police reopened the case multiple times over the decades, hoping new forensic technologies or a fresh investigative perspective would yield results. Satellite images were reviewed, old testimonies were re-interviewed, but Blackwood Road remained silent. Emily's blue sedan, a symbol of her last presence, was eventually sold to cover costs, a cruel reminder that life had to go on, even if hers had come to a sudden halt. The case of Emily Peterson is a bleak reminder that not all questions have answers. The Pacific Northwest forest keeps its secrets with a tenacity that defies human understanding. It's a narrative of unresolved loss, of the unending pain of a family and a community longing for a truth that may never come. What happened to Emily that cold December night? Was she the victim of a cunning criminal, a tragic accident in the wild, or something even more inexplicable? Human nature is complex, and the stories the keeper unravels are a mirror to its depths. From obsessions that turn fatal, like Arthur Finch's, to disappearances that defy all logic, like Emily Peterson's, we are confronted with life's fragility and the omnipresence of darkness. These are the stories that haunt us, that force us to question what we truly know about the world around us, and about the monsters that sometimes hide in plain sight. The Keeper will continue to investigate the darkest corners of the human experience, searching for understanding and, when possible, justice. Until next time, remain vigilant, for the shadows are deep and the secrets infinite.